are these people?
Now, along the lines of the deportation stuff, our friend and Indie Media Award honoree at Decensored News, class of 2024, published out a four-page letter that was released by Mahmoud Khalil's lawyer that he wrote while in ICE detention. This was published on Wednesday. So, Decensored writes, it's now been roughly a week and a half since Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil, a recent Columbia University graduate and legal permanent resident of the U.S., was arrested by plainclothes federal agents and threatened with deportation over his participation in the on-campus protests against Israel's U.S.-backed genocide in Gaza. And again, we covered that extensively last week on this show, or at least I did. Events have been unfolding quickly, and among them, and I wanted to bring this because this is what's happened this week. His arrest was criticized by the ACLU, FIRE, First Amendment Coalition, ADC, and many others, and even Ann Coulter. Hundreds of Jewish protesters wearing the Not in Our Name shirts staged a sit-in at Trump Tower demanding Khalil's immediate release, at least 98 of whom were reported arrested. Many more protesters marched in the streets of New York City and elsewhere. Mahmoud Khalil's 8 months pregnant wife, Noor Abdallah, a U.S. citizen, issued a statement on the arrest. DHS Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar was unable to give a single example of Khalil's alleged terrorist activity, support of terrorism, or any criminal activity at all when pressed during an interview. The Trump administration sent a widely criticized letter to Columbia with a list of erroneous demands, including expulsions or multi-year suspensions for Hamilton Hall and encampments. Right. The Columbia University Judicial Board announced that they had expelled, suspended, or revoked the degrees of a number of students, 22 of them as of last week, according to CUAD, including a Jewish student named Grant Minor, president of Columbia Student Workers Union, who again we covered last week was fired as the president of their workers union. And then we talked about Ron Johnny, who self-deported. Most recently, the Southern District Court of New York ruled that Khalil's case should be transferred to New Jersey, where he was initially taken shortly before his habeas petition was filed. Quote, if the court allowed this case to play out in Louisiana, it would be rewarding the Trump administration's unlawful attempt to manipulate jurisdiction by transferring Mr. Khalil across state lines in the middle of the night. Unquote. The judge also reaffirmed that a previous ruling that blocked Mr. Khalil's deportation in the absence of a court order, according to his lawyers at the Center for Constitutional Rights. Despite all of this, there is one important voice that we had not heard from since Mahmoud Khalil's arrest, and that is the man himself, Mahmoud Khalil.
Correct.
That changed Tuesday when CCR published a letter that he dictated over the phone from an ICE detention facility in Louisiana. As was the case for Lily Greenberg Call and others, many media outlets are only quoting parts of the letter, often without even linking to the entire unedited text. We think Mahmoud Khalil deserves to be heard in full, so here it is. Letter from a Palestinian political prisoner in Louisiana. Dictated over the phone from ICE detention, March 18, 2025. My name is Mahmoud Khalil and I'm a political prisoner. I am writing to you from a detention facility in Louisiana, where I wake to cold mornings and spend long days bearing witness to the quiet injustices underway against a great many people precluded from the protections of the law. Who has the right to have rights? It is certainly not the humans crowded into the cells here. It isn't the Senegalese man I met who's been deprived of his liberty for a year, his legal situation in limbo, and his family an ocean away. It isn't the 21-year-old detainee I met who stepped foot in this country at age 9, only to be deported without so much as a hearing. Justice escapes the contours of this nation's immigration facilities. On March 8th, happy birthday, Reef, I was taken by DHS agents who refused to provide a warrant and accosted my wife and me as we returned from dinner. By now, the footage of that night has been made public. Before I knew what was happening, agents handcuffed and forced me into an unmarked car. At that moment, my only concern was for Noor's safety. I had no idea if she would be taken too, since agents had threatened to arrest her for not leaving my side. DHS would not tell me anything for hours. I didn't know the cause of my arrest or if I was facing immediate deportation. At 26 Federal Plaza, I slept on the cold floor. In the early morning hours, agents transported me to another facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey. There, I slept on the ground and was refused a blanket despite my request. My arrest was a direct consequence of exercising my right to free speech as I advocated for a free Palestine and an end to the genocide in Gaza, which resumed in full force Monday night. With January ceasefire now broken, parents in Gaza are now once again cradling two small shrouds, and families are forced to weigh starvation and displacement against bombs. It is our moral imperative to persist in the struggle for their complete freedom. I was born in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria to a family which has been displaced from their land since the 1948 Nakba. I spent my youth in proximity to yet distant from my homeland. But being Palestinian is an experience that transcends borders. I see in my circumstances similarities to Israel's use of administrative detention, imprisonment without trial or charge, to strip Palestinians of their rights. I think of our friend Omar Khatib, who was incarcerated without charge or trial by Israel as he returned home from travel. I think of Gaza hospital director and pediatrician Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, who was taken captive by the Israeli military on December 27th and remains in an Israeli torture camp today. For Palestinians, imprisonment without due process is commonplace. I've always believed that my duty is not only to liberate myself from the oppressor, but also to liberate my oppressors from their hatred and fear. My unjust detention is indicative of the anti-Palestinian racism that both the Biden and Trump administrations have demonstrated over the past 16 months as the U.S. has continued to supply Israel with weapons to kill Palestinians and prevented international intervention. For decades, anti-Palestinian racism has driven efforts to expand U.S. laws and practices that are used to violently repress Palestinians, Arab Americans, and other communities. That is precisely why I am being targeted. While I await legal decisions that hold the futures of my wife and unborn child in the balance, those who enabled my targeting remain comfortably at Columbia University. Presidents Shafiq, Armstrong, and Dean Yarhi Milo laid the groundwork for the U.S. government to target me by arbitrarily disciplining pro-Palestinian students and allowing viral doxing campaigns based on racism and disinformation to go unchecked. Columbia targeted me for my activism, creating a new authoritarian disciplinary office to bypass due process and silence students criticizing Israel. Columbia surrendered to federal pressure by disclosing student records to Congress and yielding to the Trump administration's latest threats. My arrest and the expulsion or suspension of at least 22 Columbia students, some stripped of their bachelor's degrees just weeks before graduation, but not refunded their tuition, and the expulsion of SWC President Grant Minor on the eve of contract negotiations are clear examples. If anything, my detention is a testament to the strength of the student movement in shifting public opinion toward the Palestinian liberation. Students have long been at the forefront of change. leading the charge against the Vietnam War, standing on the front lines of the civil rights movement, and driving the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Today, too, even if the public has yet to fully grasp it, it's students who steer us toward truth and justice. It's the kids, man. The Trump administration is targeting me as a part of a broader strategy to suppress dissent. Visa holders, green card carriers, and citizens alike will all be targeted for their political beliefs. In the weeks ahead, students, advocates, and elected officials must unite to defend the right to protest for Palestine. At stake are not just our voices, but the fundamental civil liberties of all. Knowing fully that this moment transcends my individual circumstances, I hope nonetheless to be free to witness the birth of my firstborn child. And may he be a healthy and masculine child. If it's a boy, obviously, but also it just, again, for a little bit of levity, but free Mahmoud Khalil, motherfuckers. Come on. What the hell, man?
Mm-hmm.
And we're definitely not getting remonetized for stuff like that. So if you are able to, out of means, please, I hate begging and I hate doing this.
Money, please.
That one. We could use some help. Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, even Substack if you must. But please try to do one of the other three if you can. The reason being that they don't take very many fees. We end up with the most possible money. If you super chat on my channel, you are able to. YouTube takes 30%. If you Rumble rant, they take 50%. Now, you could Rumble subscribe to the channel, the little red button that says subscribe with the little red gift. They give us all of that. So that's cool. You can do that. But again, Cash App, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. And that worked. Use it this week. And thank you so much to Sean, and thank you so much to Kamishwari Kate, and thank you so much to Charlie Mack Friday Night, and to Colin Care Bear, and everybody else that contributes. It's incredible. Thank you. It really helps, and it really keeps us going. If you're able to, Cash App, $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. That's with an IE. Support independent media. We need it more than ever. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
All people are afraid. No one knows what they're doing. Everything is getting worse. Some people deserve to die. Your money is worthless. No one is properly dressed. At least one of your children will disappoint you. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. God doesn't care. Shh.
Good night, everyone.
Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison.